But are you ready for rapid fire?
Always ready for rapid fire. And I know
Right.
the first question is probably going to get people fired up, but that's okay.
Right. That's right. And I saved this. It's going to, like I said, we're going to continue the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Drew Pyne has been called a poor man's Ian Book. So do you buy or sell Pyne actually being a better version of Book?
I buy it, to be honest with you. Now, here's the thing. If you look at the entire resume of Ian Book, he won, 30 games, something like that?
Right.
You have to take all that into account. Now, a lot of those games were against crappy opponents, et cetera, but he's the all-time winningest quarterback at Notre Dame. I will give him all the credit in the world for that. But he made some stupid decisions, whether it was to not throw the ball at all or to run out of bounds and take a sack.
Right.
Or, I mean, you know how much that annoyed the crap out of me, and he would do it all the time, right? I think that Drew Pyne actually makes better decisions right now. He is willing to throw the ball down the field. There's a lot of things that Drew Pyne is willing to do that Ian Book never was. He's comfortable in the pocket. I don't think Ian Book was ever comfortable in the pocket. He's still not comfortable in the pocket in the NFL. It just never was. Drew Pyne's comfortable, man. As long as you give him time, he'll sit back there and he'll find somebody open. So,
and this, I go back to that Jaden Thomas throw. That's a throw that Ian Book would not make.
No, not a chance. Not a chance.
Because again, there was coverage on that play. Ian Book, all he had to do was see a man over there. He's not throwing in that. He did it like once. He did it to Miles Boykin, down there in Nashville. That was like the only time, and it was because he had to.
Yeah, right.
And like the time in the pocket, like I was talking earlier about how Drew Pyne would stand there and he had time to go through the progressions 2 or 3 times. Like Ian Book, he got through those progressions for the first time, and if there was nobody there, he was bouncing out of that pocket. He was not going to stand there and keep looking for somebody else.
Even when it's a beautiful pocket
like Drew Pyne had. That's right.
He'd be gone. He would have rolled out and tried to do a spin move out of the pocket. Like,
hit that ejector button.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
That annoyed me so much.
I've got a lot of respect for Ian Book for the games he won and everything else. But we all know that there was some frustration because there was another level. Everyone wanted him to go to another level, but he just was not able to go there.
It was between the ears.
Yeah. And already, again, in 3 starts, we have seen Drew Pyne do things that were beyond what Ian Book was willing to do. And so, yeah, I mean, I think right now Pyne is a better version of Ian Book, and somebody I saw this. He said, Buckner is a poor man's Book. Pyne is a poor man's Breeze. So,
I don't know that I would put Buckner and Book in the same conversation. They're different quarterbacks for sure.
Yeah.
But I like Pyne as a poor man's Breeze. I mean, I get that. I see that correlation. I absolutely do. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Drew Brees saw that correlation too when he was the color man at Notre Dame, and Pyne was coming in. I mean, he saw that correlation too. So I absolutely see that. I could go with that for sure.
Yeah. Pyne's willing to do things that Ian Book wouldn't do. For as good as Ian Book was.
Yes. And Ian Book had more tools, more talent than Drew Pyne.
True. Very true.
Absolutely did. If there was some sort of a blocker in the brain that wouldn't let him do certain things, even though he had the physical tools and ability to do so.
It felt like, like the blocker in the brain might be the BK PTSD that we've talked about. Like,
right.
I don't know. But it's always felt like ball protection, ball security was beat into some of those quarterbacks so much that maybe they weren't willing. There's something to say for obviously taking care of the football, but there are also times that you have to take chances. And again, like Drew Pyne, even though he's not, taking these big shots downfield all the time like he did on that Thomas throw, like he anticipates where the route is going. He doesn't have to see a man flying wide open
like Ian Book
throw him the football. Like he doesn't have to be open when he throws the football. He will lead him and let the receiver make a play on the ball more than Ian Book would.
Yep, absolutely agree. I am happy that Drew Pyne was the number 2 quarterback coming into the season because I was confident that he could lead this team to a bunch of wins. That's exactly what he's doing. He's doing it at a better pace than I thought he would, but he's doing exactly what we thought he could do. So I'm happy.
Yeah. I mean, this is a guy who has completed 78% of his passes in 2 games plus since the second half of Cal, and over the last 2 games, 78%. It's just amazing.
It is amazing. And it's also, and Brian, I think, brought this up in the post-game show, I think, but he meant, and I want to give credit where credit is due. The Notre Dame offense seems to be a heck of a lot better when it's a first-year starter and the playbook is narrowed down. Ian Book, when he came in relief in 2018, those first few games that he played, he could do no wrong, right? Here we are. I mean, it's a very similar situation. It's a pared down playbook. Drew Pyne is just he's doing a great job. So I think there's something to be said for that.
And I think the one thing to be on the lookout for is there is film on this guy now. You know, not that Drew Pyne is doing, you know, out of this world things, you know, but there is film on this guy. Right. And the more film there's going to be a defensive coordinator out there who's going to be able to do some things and take some things away that haven't been taken away so far.
Probably that first weekend of November.
Yeah. We're also probably lucky Venables is no longer a defensive coordinator. He's just at Oklahoma, and you don't have to worry about that guy.
And he clearly never even walks into the defensive room at Oklahoma.
That's right. That's exactly right. Okay, here's a soundbite from Marcus Freeman. He was asked about whether Prince Kollie could see more playing time at linebacker. So here's what Freeman had to say about that.
I challenged him last week, Prince, you continue to build trust in practice. There is no such thing as a game. Your team needs you to be a great practice player. And that's my challenge to Prince, and that's my challenge to many other players in our football program. Everybody talks about Michael Mayer. Michael Mayer is one of the best practice players I've been around. That's what we need our young guys to be. And for Prince to go and make a big play like that, man, it was good to see. He's a talented football player. And he had a really good week of practice. He played more this past game than he probably ever has. And he's still challenged. You got to challenge yourself, man. We need great practice players because that builds confidence in your coaches to put you out there in the game. And that's what I hope to see him do because, listen, talent sets the ceiling of how good you can be, and Prince got a high ceiling. Continue to put the work in practice to gain confidence in your coaches and to make you a better football player. I think he can be really special.
All right, Vince, tell me what you think.
Well, I mean, he obviously is very high on Prince Kollie, and he is saying that he is earning the trust. And that's the big word, right? That's the buzzword this year, I feel like, is the trust.
Trust.
He's earning the trust of the coaching
trust
staff.
in practice.
And he hasn't said that about many other guys that haven't been playing, but he's saying it about Prince Kollie. And I think that there's a really good opportunity here for Prince Kollie to make some waves here over the next few games and become a solid rotational player in this linebacking core. Could he start? Yeah, he could. But I don't see that necessarily happening, but I see him being a solid rotational player that they use on a regular basis in this defense. I think he can be that guy, and that will parlay into a potential starting role next year. I think that is his role moving forward, and I think that's great. They're saying his trust is increasing. That's a really good sign based on the other press conferences we've heard about using the word trust.
And I mean, there's been a lot of that. And, it's trust has become the new traits.
Yes,
think, right?
Exactly.
It's like, got to earn the trust. And I've got no problem with you need to earn the trust because that means you're proving yourself in practice on a day in, day out basis. Right. And there's no doubt. And I think that's what a lot of fans especially get frustrated with is you see the rankings that some of these guys come in with, they have talent, and then you see guys in front of them on the depth chart who aren't playing that well, and you're like, why isn't he on the field? And so now we finally got to see a little bit of Prince Kollie as some of these other guys have struggled, and they haven't been big roles, but in the small doses that we've got to see him, he's making plays like that. The closeout that he had on that sack on Hall was just, like I saw a couple guys on the beat tweet the video of that today. It's he was moving, there's a different kind of speed and athleticism that he can bring to the position. So I'm really excited to see if he can continue this along with, are these other guys finally going to up their game or not?
Yep, absolutely. And I think it's great to have a guy like that pushing the starters, pushing the guys who are getting the playing time, because that's what recruiting can do for you. That's what building a depth chart can do for you. You're going to get pushed. There's a school around here that has been really good at football over the years. And the reason they've been really good at football is the starter is pushed all the time.
Right.
If the starter's not doing their job, there's somebody right there ready to take it. Some of the teams I coached for, you kind of had to play the starter because there was nobody pushing them from behind, and that's who we had.
Right.
That's not the case at Notre Dame. There's guys pushing these guys, and I hope it continues. And I hope the coaches will look at those guys as a viable option if the job's not getting done by the guys that are in there right now.
USMA 87. When do coaches place faith in the player? And I think that this goes back to the early part of that clip where Marcus Freeman said there are no gamers, and there's no such thing as a gamer. I think when you're not just going to throw a player out there on blind faith if he's not showing you that he can do something right in practice.
Sure.
Like we've talked about our coaching backgrounds. It's like I had a kid who was really fast, didn't have a great bat, but it's like, you're fast. You should be able to drop you need to work on bunting.
Yes.
1. 2, I can use you as a pinch runner and you can go in and, you can steal some bases for us, right? But every time I gave him a bunt sign, he was missing the signs. When I would pinch run him and put him at first base, I gave him a steal sign. He's standing there 3 pitches later, right? So I'm not going to continue to put any faith in him if he's not doing simple things like that, seeing the signs. And that goes back to practice. Like if you're not doing the simple things in practice, there's not going to be any faith built up to show that you deserve to be out there on game day.
Right. And the faith and trust and all of that, it's like, okay, if I have this kid in there, is he going to line up correctly? Is he going to know what routes to run? That is part of it. Now, are they putting too much load on some of these guys for them to learn?
Right.
Sure.
But it's different. Like we're talking about Prince Kollie, we're talking about a linebacker. And like, if we're going to use Meriwether as the example, there are a lot more play in and play out responsibilities that you have to have that are non-negotiable if you're going to be out there as a linebacker.
Absolutely.
Because one misstep is going to lead to somebody scoring a touchdown against you. Whereas again, as a receiver, there are ways to get a receiver on the field that aren't as crucial play in and play out as a linebacker, for example.
My bad.
Nope, that's all right.
No, I agree.
Out of there, so
I agree with you completely, and it is heartwarming, I'll say, to hear that Prince is earning the trust of the staff, because I think he can be a dynamic linebacker in this defense, and I think he can help this defense at, frankly, the position at linebacker that has been the weakest on the defense up to this point. So with few bright spots, but with a lot more negatives than positives.
Yeah. Okay, next question.
All right.
With the exception of the 2020 pandemic season, Notre Dame and Stanford have played every year since 1997. But the Stanford program has obviously declined over the past 5 years. My question, do you buy or sell it's time to end the Notre Dame-Stanford series? And if so, what do you do to fill the hole in the schedule that keeps Notre Dame on the West Coast at the end of every year? Because as we've heard, that's a big part of why Stanford kind of ended up there to begin with the rotation with USC.
Yeah, no, it's a big deal for Notre Dame for some reason. Here's what I will say. Yes, it is time to end the series with Stanford. If you want to put them on like an every 4-year rotation, I would be fine with that, because I have no problem with Notre Dame scheduling like-minded academic schools. Just that doesn't need to be your whole schedule, though.
Right.
Like, it can be a home and away over 4 years. It can be, that's totally fine. I have no problem with that. That's cool. But right now, Stanford does nothing for your strength of schedule. It does nothing for your playoff aspirations other than the fact that it's an easy win. It doesn't do anything. And there's no sign, in my opinion, that Stanford cares about the football program and that it's going to get any better anytime soon. And that's a bigger part of the problem to me than where they are right now. As I look into the future, it doesn't feel like they're going to get any better. Like they care about the football program. So End it, end it, end it, end it. Now, if you have to be on the West Coast, okay, if you have to be on the West Coast, then I agree with Stymie. Oregon, UCLA, I'm fine with that. Pick a Pac-12 team. Whatever. I don't even really care, to be honest with you. Play Washington, play Oregon, play UCLA, whatever. In this day and age, though, with private jets and all these different things, I just don't see the point that you have to absolutely be out in California on the last weekend of the season.
You can be anywhere, and like you said, get on a jet the next day and be wherever you need to be. Like
I don't. Back in the day when travel wasn't maybe as accessible and as easy, I get it, right? And you do want to have your team in different locales in the country, but it doesn't have to be the last weekend of the season.
Right.
You can go out to Southern Cal other times. You can go out to the West Coast other times. You can go to Texas other times. It doesn't have to be the last weekend of the season. Bring a California team in at the end of November. How about that?
I agree. Like there's a multitude of things you can do. Like if being on the West Coast is really important, and we've seen some of them floated here. You can do what you were talking about. You keep Stanford on a maybe every 4-year rotation, but you mix in UCLA, Oregon, Washington. You could even throw Cal in there, because if just getting to the West Coast, Cal is better than Stanford right now. Like any of those programs that you want, you could even throw Arizona into the mix if you wanted. But, then you've got the other things talking about Texas, that you need to be in Texas. You've got TCU that you could throw in there. You've got Texas. You've got Texas A&M. Like if you want to, and Texas A&M, is going to be, but so like there's just so many different options.
Yes.
And especially when you're talking about 1 year, it's in South Bend in October. The next year, it's on the road in Thanksgiving. I think it would actually be kind of cool to actually see Notre Dame be able to stay home for Thanksgiving once in a while.
Me too.
And get one of those teams from a warm weather to maybe come in here when it's a little bit cold in South Bend.
And I know that's a challenge. I get that. But at the same time, give it a shot, man. There's plenty of teams that will show up at Notre Dame in the end of November. There are plenty of teams that will do that. So I just think that they need to break away from some of the scheduling locks that they've had over the last few years.
This isn't how it always was, because I had forgotten, like that Boston College game that followed Florida State. That was Thanksgiving weekend.
That was the last game of the season.
That was the last game of the regular season.
Yeah.
So, and that was only, that was what, 92, right? Yeah. 93. And then 4 years later is when the Stanford series began. And, again, it's been every year with the exception of 2020 since then. So,
right. And again, not a rivalry game, just to go back to what we talked about.
I don't think so either. And
you can end it.
I'm gonna bring some of this up with the Stanford guy, kind of get his thoughts on the future of this series, sort of like what the people out there think about this series and the whole thing. I'm gonna have the Stanford guy on on Thursday. So we'll talk about that kind of stuff. So I'm curious to see
where they kind of land on it, because right now they're getting their doors blown off by Notre Dame every year, and that can't be fun. I mean, and what does coming to Notre Dame do for Stanford?
Yeah.
I mean, really?
Yeah, they're not getting a paycheck out of it.
No.
Because you got a home and home every year.
They're certainly not getting a trophy out of it, so what's the point?
Yeah. You got to go out of conference for a week and all that different stuff. So, okay, Vince, in last night's game against Kansas City, the Raiders scored a touchdown with 2 minutes and 58 seconds remaining in the game. They pulled within a point. Rather than kick the extra point to tie the game, Josh McDaniel opts to go for 2, but the 2-point conversion failed. The Raiders end up losing by a point, 30-29. What do you think about the decision to go for 2 with under just, right at 3 minutes to play, basically, rather than just tie the game?
Obviously, hindsight is 2020. I believe the Raiders were the visiting team, right?
Yes.
Okay. The rule of thumb is that if you're the visiting team, you got nothing to lose. You go ahead and go for the win, that whole thing. Okay. To me, with a little under 3 minutes to go, I'm tying it up. I'm putting a lot on my defense to stop them, and I'm hoping to get the ball back to then go win the game. And at the very least, we get to go to overtime. And again, I know that hindsight is 20/20, but with that much time left, I feel like you could potentially get the ball back and then go for the win.
And that's exactly it. There's still basically 3 minutes to go. You got the
2-minute warning as a timeout.
Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in that, Buffalo Bills playoff game moved downfield in 2 plays and kicked a field goal in 15 seconds. That's all it took, was less than 15 seconds. If your defense does half its job, you're going to get the ball back, even if it's with a minute to play. But with 3 minutes to play, you've got to assume now that their defense did hold and the Chiefs didn't score, but you've got to assume that the Chiefs are going to score, right? And it's not going to matter whether or not you take a 1-point lead. It's, and again, now the Raiders did end up holding, but they lost by a point as well because, but you've got to assume that Patrick Mahomes is going to score and maybe you've got a chance to get the football back at the end. I think 3 minutes is way too early to be going for 2. Now, If you're talking about under a minute to play or under 30 seconds to play, that's a completely different story. But there's just way too much time left. Way too much time.
Yeah, exactly. If they're not going to have
Derek, I watched the game again today. It was 2 minutes and 58 seconds.
Oh, okay. Well, that's it. They're at 58. Beautiful.
Yeah, he thought there was 4.5. There was 2:58.
Yeah. If it's like, 10 seconds left.
They always replay the Monday night game on NFL Network in the afternoon. So.
If there's like 10 seconds left, that kind of a thing, I could see it a little bit more. You go for the win, get out of there, that kind of a situation. But even then, it's such an all or nothing play with a 2-point conversion. You're the hero if you get it. You're the bum if they don't, that kind of a thing. I don't know. You just go for the tie. At least you have overtime.
And this is the good point too, Trucker Joe. The Raiders were 1-3 before they lost. They should have just got the extra point.
You need to win wherever you can get it.
So, if you've got a chance to get back into, you need a tie game and hope that you can get to overtime, or at least have a tie game. Maybe the Chiefs score, and again, you get the ball back. I just think it was a bad decision and all the way around.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, fill in the blank. We had another questionable roughing the passer call last night. Chiefs defensive lineman Chris Jones flagged for coming down on top of Derek Carr while Jones was taking the ball away from Carr and sacking him. And he actually recovered this fumble. So, as he is going down, the ball is coming out. He's trying to recover the ball as they're going down, and then he ends up landing on top of Derek Carr. They throw a flag for roughing the passer. It prompts Troy Aikman to say, "It's too much. My hope is the competition committee looks at this in the next set of meetings and we take the dresses off." So Troy Aikman's comments, Vince, are blank.
Right on. I mean, he came up in a NFL where he got his butt handed to him, especially early on in his career. Okay?
And that's the most important thing to remember is this is coming from a quarterback.
Right. And he got it handed to him on numerous occasions. You as a Cowboys fan can attest to this, right? Before they had all those big uglies up front, he was getting manhandled, okay? He's a Hall of Fame quarterback. Somehow he figured it out, and somehow he was okay with it, right? The roughing the passer penalties have gone way over the line. It's still football, right? I don't care if it's Tom Brady. I don't care if it's Patrick Mahomes. I don't care if it's Derek Carr. I realize the quarterbacks are the faces of the franchise, et cetera, et cetera. They signed up to play football. They get paid a lot of money to play football. It's okay to hit them. Okay. Do I want cheap hits at the knee or, a spear in the chest or anything like that? No, of course not. But the hit that Tom Brady took, the hit you're talking about, it's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
The hit that Brady took was a joke. At least when you look at the guy coming down on top of Carr, it was worse looking than the Brady hit by far.
Sure.
But again, the guy is in the process of not only sacking the quarterback, but taking the ball away from him and trying to make sure that he's securing the ball. So he's doing two things at once.
Right.
And that's why that is a total joke.
And he's not worried about where he's falling on the quarterback. He's trying to get the football, which, by the way, is the number one priority for the defense.
Yes. I mean, it literally, if they're going to dumb these rules down like this for the quarterback, they might as well be playing touch football, with the quarterback
Right.
involved. Put some kind of electronic thing on him and decide, you get two-hand touch on the quarterback in the NFL, because you obviously don't want to hurt the quarterback. And if they're going to change the rules, go to the extreme. Don't even mess with it anymore. Just make it two-hand touch and do away with it, so that there's no hits on the quarterback at all.
Brian NY says, can't hit him, can't throw him to the ground, just put flags on him. I mean, that's about where we're at right now, man. And it doesn't make for good football. I'm sorry, it doesn't.
No, I know. And they already changed. The whole thing about the hits down around the knees, that came about because Brady tore his ACL back in whatever year that was.
And I actually have no problem with that, because you had the defensive lineman like crawling over to, and then taking him out at the side of I actually have no problem with that, right? At the beginning, I was like, well, come on, who cares? But no, I mean, I get that. Don't go for the knees. But other than that, man, come on. Let's not be so soft.
I agree. So Daniel Wade, we were talking about songs to use, and he gave us a super chat. How about just using the song Voodoo instead of Voodoo Child as an intro? And do you know the difference between the two?
No, I don't, but I'm guessing whoever wrote the first one would have a problem with us using it for free.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Just saying.
And I think it was Salty earlier was asking early Billy Joel or 80s Billy Joel. So like I think 80s Billy Joel would be like Uptown Girl and those kind of songs, like when the Christy Brinkley influence came in, as opposed to like Only the Good Die Young, which might have been even, those kind of chairs. Big Shot, Big Shot I think was late 70s still. Personally, I go toward older Billy Joel. It's got a little bit more rock as opposed to the pop influence.
Yep. I agree. That's kind of where I'm at too. I'm with you. I'm with you.
All right. Well, I think that's all we've got tonight. Was there one question? Yeah, we hit the question from the chat. So I think that's going to do it.
We got Quantum Leap question in there.
Oh, really? Where is it?
Well, it says
I haven't watched last night's episode.
Because there's stuff I wanted to talk to you about on that. So we'll have to wait on that one. But
I've forgotten because I was actually watching part of the Monday night game and doing some other work last night during the Monday night game, so I didn't have a chance to actually sit down and watch an actual TV show.
I watched it this morning, not this morning. I watched it between school and the show, so that's when I watched it. So yeah, we'll have to reconvene.
Salty says it's a false choice. The answer is neither, and I would say I'm not a huge Billy Joel fan. My wife and I, bought tickets when they first came out, and then after all the delays, we decided, you know what? We really don't like Billy Joel that much. We're not going to go see it. So,
well, when he was at Notre Dame, you mean?
Yeah.
That's funny.
We sold our tickets.
That's good.
So,
that's good.
Yeah, it's like, his songs are on the radio. And I think part of the problem, like why I don't like him any more than I do, is because most of what I hear on the radio is, again, like Uptown Girl and that kind of stuff. I'd rather hear the old stuff.
Yeah. Good call.
Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for tonight. Mailbag show tomorrow night. Vince will be here once again for the mailbag show. So be sure to join us tomorrow for that. And as of now, the plan is for Jesse to be in on Thursday. And again, we'll have a Stanford guy Thursday and here's some of that kind of stuff as well. So thanks to everybody for being here. Oh, we've got Adams. I was going to mention that. Adams pushing the camera guy. Did you see that? He got banned for life. There's an amusement park called Worlds of Fun that I grew up going to in the Kansas City area. Worlds of Fun, it's kind of like a Six Flags, that thing. Worlds of Fun tweeted today that they have banned DaVante Adams for life from the park after the whole camera pushing guy. And then the camera guy, of course, filed charges.
Of course he did.
Against him today. Have you seen the video of that, by the way?
Yeah, he jumped in front of him.
That's I don't think he should have pushed him as hard as he did. But if you're a cameraman, if you shoot photos and you're used to being at an NFL or a college stadium, the game is over. There are players going toward the tunnel. Get the hell out of the way.
Yeah.
You
can easily line up along the side of the tunnel and still get the photograph that you're looking for. He literally jumped in front of him like he was supposed to stop and pose, like it's the red carpet. He just lost the football game. He wants to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
Like, that's ridiculous. Oh, I'm going to press charges.
Right.
That's terrible. Terrible.
I agree.
It's terrible.
I agree. Big baby. Big baby is all.
Absolutely.
All right. We will talk to you tomorrow night. We will be here. I hope you will be too. IB Nation Sports Talk.